I'm creating Echo Canyon on my N-scale layout, and I'm going to show you how I'm doing it. That's coming right up. Hi, I'm Roy Smith. Today's video is the first in a series of videos in which I will show you how I am creating Echo Canyon on my layout. There are many ways to create scenery, but I've decided to carve the cliffs of Echo Canyon out of a layered block of white styrofoam, much like a sculptor would carve a statue out of marble. You may be wondering why I'm using white styrofoam instead of extruded styrofoam, given the well-known disadvantages of white styrofoam. Well, let me tell you why. As you may know, I live down here in Panama. Yep, that's the place with the Panama Canal. Down here, the ever-popular extruded styrofoam simply does not exist, be it pink, blue, or yellow. So if I want to use foam as a scenery base on my layout, my only choice is the white stuff. White styrofoam is messy, no doubt about it. When you cut it, those little white beads of styrofoam can get all over the layout and all over the layout room. That's why I do most of my heavy-duty cutting and carving outside. Then I bring the project indoors and put it back on the layout. That's when I do some finer cutting and carving using tools that produce less of a mess. I'll show you all of that in this video. This is what Echo Canyon currently looks like on my layout. I'm making progress, but it's far from done. I still have a lot of work to do. I'm using the same technique to create Echo Canyon that I used to create White Mountain at the other end of my layout in 2015. White Mountain was one of the first scenic features that I built on my layout. I built it out of white styrofoam and painted it with Woodland Scenic's earth tone pigments. Let me first set the stage for this series of videos by telling you a little about the prototype in Utah. After that, I'll show you how I'm creating Echo Canyon on my layout. This map shows you where Echo Canyon is located in northeastern Utah. It stretches for a distance of 23 miles. It has sometimes been called the entrance to Utah because it is one of the most important routes for westward migration. Native Americans and explorers used this route, followed by wagon trains, Mormon pioneers, the overland stage, the Pony Express, gold prospectors and silver miners, and the Union Pacific Railroad, as well as the Transcontinental Telegraph Line, the Lincoln Highway, and finally Interstate 80. Back in January 2014, I stumbled upon some photos of Echo Canyon on the internet. I was immediately captivated by it. It was these photos that brought me back to model railroading after being out of the hobby for nearly 30 years. Echo Canyon is best known for its reddish-brown rock cliffs and sedimentary rock formations, which you can see in this photo. Well, in coming upon these photos back in 2014, I noticed right away that the Union Pacific Railroad runs through the canyon. That determined which railroad I would model. From the get-go, I wanted to model a prototype railroad, and I wanted to capture the feel of the region through which the railroad runs. The tracks you see here are part of the Union Pacific Evanston Subdivision, which stretches from Green River, Wyoming to Ogden, Utah, and which I am modeling. The tracks are part of the Transcontinental Railroad. They were laid in 1868 and 1869. In the photo, you also see a portion of the Lincoln Highway. This highway was built in the 1920s as one of the first transcontinental highways from New York to San Francisco. Interstate 80 was built in the 1980s and also stretches from New York to San Francisco. Unfortunately, my layout is only 10.5 inches wide at Echo Canyon, and I wanted to include the scree, or the rocks and dirt caused by erosion of the cliff face, at the bottom of the cliffs so I had no space for the Lincoln Highway, although I might widen this part of my layout. Of course, Interstate 80 is definitely off layout. Also just off layout and not visible in this photo is the town of Echo, Utah, which takes its name from the canyon. It is located just outside of Echo Canyon, where the canyon joins Weber Canyon and where Interstate 84 joins Interstate 80. 80 continues on to Salt Lake City, and 84 heads up to Ogden. Something like 50 people live in Echo. This is where Echo would be if it were on my layout. Until the 1960s, Echo was significant to the Union Pacific Railroad. It served as a coaling and watering station for trains entering Echo Canyon. Helper locomotives were added here when needed to push trains up the steep grade to Wasatch at the top of the grade just before reaching the Wyoming border. There is a rest stop and Utah Welcome Center in the canyon on Interstate 80, which is an ideal spot for rail fanning. From this rest stop, you can watch 50 to 70 trains passing through here each day. Now, you may recall what this area of my layout looked like before I began this project. For a long time, many of you were asking when I was going to get started on it. Well, I finally did get started a week ago. At first, it looked like a stack of white styrofoam. As I said, I do most of the cutting and carving outside because I don't want to get those white beads of styrofoam all over the layout and train room. I do this initial cutting and carving in my open-air garage. Then I do some cleaning up and some preliminary shaping of the white styrofoam with a plastic bristled brush. These are the main tools I'm using for this project. The tools on the right are for big cutting and rough shaping. They include this saw, which I guess is called a keyhole saw, but I'm not sure, the plastic bristled brush, and medium coarse sandpaper. The tools on the left are for finer work. They include a Woodland Scenics hot wire cutter, a razor saw, and my ever-present X-Acto knife. Unfortunately, the hot wire cutter stopped working as I was doing this project. I don't know why it stopped, but I guess I'll have to buy a new one. You can use just about any sharp tool to cut and shape the styrofoam, but don't take one of the good knives from the kitchen because your wife might not be too happy if you do. Now I've taken the styrofoam back up to the train room and placed it on the layout. It's 5 feet long and very lightweight. I haven't glued it down to the layout yet, so I can take it back outside for additional carving. At this point, the cliffs and scree are still two separate pieces, but as you will see in a moment, I'm going to glue them together and fill the small gap between them with spackling paste. I have hung 3 photos on the scenic divider to help me shape the cliffs to look like the prototype, and later on I will use these same photos to select the best colors of paint. Now I have glued the scree and cliffs together. I'm applying spackling paste to fill the gap between them. Eventually I will completely cover the cliffs and scree with spackling paste or with Sculpting mold to carve the striations in the rocks. Here's a better view of what I've done so far. Most of the fine details still have to be done. There is a gap under a part of the styrofoam, as you can see. I will fill that gap in a moment. And here it is. I filled that gap with pieces of styrofoam and spackling paste. The basic work has been done, but I still have a lot of carving and other detail work to do. If I'm careful, I won't make too big of a mess with the styrofoam, and I can easily clean it up with a vacuum cleaner. I hope I can capture the feel of Echo Canyon by the time I finish this project. Well, I will continue to work on this. In upcoming episodes, I will cover the cliffs with spackling paste or with sculpting mold to carve the striations in the rock. I will paint the cliffs, and I will add vegetation. Watch for those upcoming episodes. I try to upload a new video every Saturday, and I don't want you to miss any of them. Be sure to subscribe if you're new here, and feel free to comment down below. I read every comment that you post, and I try to respond to each and every one of them. Thanks for watching. Until next time, happy railroading. I will see you again very soon.